Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ed McElhenney. Normally, Connie Bolin does this, and she is in a very important meeting right now. And so she pointed her finger at me, her husband, and said, "No, you got it, Ed." And I said, "Okay, fine." I'm also going to be the moderator today, so I'll be up here for about the next hour or so. So get used to my voice. I got to say, probably most of you have been here before, but just to say what this is, hey, 25th year of Warbird in Review. Connie and her late husband, Ed, started this way back when. It has continued and grown and gotten better and better and better. I heard one show already this year had 1.4 million views. Last year we had a total of 11 million views, streaming online, and all I can say is an excellent program done by a bunch of excellent people up here. I have to say thank you to a couple of our sponsors, one of which I'm standing on right now, Scott's Miracle-Gro. Jim Hagedorn, he was here earlier. He has been a strong supporter for years and years and years. I knew him when he was much younger. In fact, my father actually helped teach him how to fly way back when. And my dad's 102 right now and still kicking. The other thank you I got to say is to Fagen Fighters Museum, Granite Falls, Minnesota. Ron and Diane have got a tremendous museum up there, and they have contributed. In fact, they contributed that building back there several years ago, and we use that every day. The other thank you, of course, is to Connie herself. She has put me in this position, and I have been honored to be able to do it, to honor the airplanes, the men. And the last thank you I got to say right now, it's going to be probably my last opportunity, is to this crew that's out here. I can't name them all. Sleeping Dog Productions, Scott Guyette, Kyle Guyette, they're kind of the kingpins of it. But you take a look out here, and hey, we've got our sound guys. We've got Rich, Kimberly, Jonathan. Hey, it just goes on and on and on. And so I got to say thank you to those folks for making me look good, and for bringing what we want, which is to honor, hey, the veterans, to honor the airplanes to the world out there. So I think that's the thank yous at this point. Today, the program is about this airplane right here. Near and dear to my heart. I've owned one for about the last 10 years. Not one exactly like this, but I'm a Bonanza guy. I got a B-36TC, and I've owned it for a while. The quick story is on this airplane, we got a phone call from David Valaer, who owns it, and he'll be out here shortly. He called Connie and said, "Hey, Connie, I want to park my airplane on the Warbird ramp." You know, and she, of course, goes, "Well, what do you got?" And he goes, "A Bonanza." And Connie goes, "Whoa, wait a second, that's not," oh, he says, "Yes, it is." And then we got into the details. I overheard it. I said, "Oh, yeah, we got to do this." The bad news is, yeah, we don't have many in the stands right now. It is still being streamed all over the world, so that's the good news. But a very, very unique airplane. And the video will tell you a little bit more about its mission in Vietnam, and then we'll bring out our panel. We've got a panel of David Valaer, who owns the airplane, Mark Clark, who helped build this airplane, and Cliff Wilewski, who also helped build the airplane. So that's going to be the panel. But with that, I'm going to say, hey, please direct your attention to the Jumbotron up there, and we'll watch this video.
You know, we all know what an F-4 or a B-52 is, but nobody knows what a QU-22B is, so.
The Ho Chi Minh Trail was a network of roads, rivers, trails, and supply dumps. It was used by the Communist Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army to move soldiers and supplies from North Vietnam to South Vietnam. In 1967, the United States Air Force began airdropping a variety of sensors along the trail to detect movement. The sensors were monitored around the clock by surveillance aircraft flying overhead. In the beginning, the program used modified Lockheed Super Constellation airliners with the call sign Batcat. The Connies carried a crew of 18 or more. That put a large group of people at risk over hostile territory. So the Air Force wanted a smaller plane to fly the mission. They chose the Beechcraft Model 33 Debonair. It was packed with electronic equipment and designated QU-22A. Orbiting at 24,000 feet over the trail, it relayed signals from sensors on the ground to stations 150 miles away in Thailand. In 1968, 5 QU-22As began flying relay missions, replacing the Super Constellation. But there were problems. It took a QU-22A 2 hours to reach its mission altitude of 24,000 feet. Lack of de-icing boots limited its use in marginal weather, and engine failures led to 2 crashes, one of them in hostile territory. After 1 month in operation, all QU-22As were grounded, and the Connies went back to work. The Air Force went looking for a better airplane. They chose the Beechcraft A-36 Bonanza. With its larger engine, higher speed, longer range, and de-icing boots, the Bonanza seemed better suited to the mission. The highly modified A-36 was designated QU-22B. Nicknamed mini-bats or baby bats, QU-22Bs began flying combat missions in March 1970, and the Batcat Super Constellations stood down. Jim Brightbill logged about 700 hours in the QU-22B in Vietnam. One pitch-black night, he fell asleep during the orbits. When he woke, the sun was up. Thinking he had been asleep for hours, he was scared to death of running out of fuel and not making it back to base. But he looked at his watch and realized he'd been asleep for just 15 minutes. Not one baby bat was ever lost to enemy action, but gremlins plagued the program. By mid-1972, QU-22Bs had suffered 4 unexplained engine failures and 1 control failure due to turbulence. The little warbird that almost no one knew existed was pulled from service.
Gentlemen, follow me. David, you can take the hot seat.
Okay.
Since you own it also. Mark, you're next, and Cliff, you're next. Please, gentlemen, take your seats and make yourself comfortable. First guy on my left, David Valaer. He is the owner of this aircraft. We're kind of blood brothers. He's a former guard guy, former F-16 A-7s. Let's see, aerobatic champion, S2, sees, let's see, what else? It just goes on and on. A very accomplished pilot, obviously, and we're thrilled to have you and your airplane here and to hear the stories. Next guy, Mark Clark, yeah. Director of Warbird, but more important, courtesy aircraft sales. Yeah, you want to buy a Warbird? That's the guy, okay? And that's not a paid political announcement. I'm just saying he's been in this business for a long, long time. A strong, strong supporter of Warbirds in Review, a good friend, and he's here simply because, oh, by the way, he helped build this airplane back in, 1992 or something like that, a long time ago. So it has been here before. Last guy, Cliff Wilewski out there, Heritage Aero, as I remember. Yep, Heritage Aero. And he was one of the guys who, actually turned the wrenches and bent the aluminum and did everything on this airplane. So we've got some real experts on this airplane in particular. So that's who we're going to be talking with today. And I'm going to open it up to David first to say, hey, first, thank you for having it here. I'm thrilled as a Bonanza guy. I just sat there and cheered that we got a Bonanza over here. And how long have you been looking for this thing? How did you come about to acquire it? You know, here you are, a military pilot, F-16s, A-7s, and what's up?
Well, as a military pilot, I've always been fascinated by military aircraft. And in 2010 timeframe, I heard about the QU-22B. And my kids gave me a bad time because I had pictures of it. A lot of them were crashed back then and in pieces. And they called it the QU-22 Beech, like beached aircraft. And so I made a bid on it in 2012 when it was sold and didn't get the bid. So several years later, I'm at Addison Air Show in Kaboom Town in Addison, Texas. And I'm, oh my God, my QU-22B, and I'm all excited. And this guy goes, well, how do you know about this airplane? No one knows about these airplanes. And he was the owner, Brian Studer. And we became great friends. In fact, I flew it several times with him and just enjoyed the airplane with Brian Studer. And unfortunately, he was 40 years old and middle of the night had a health issue and passed away. So I actually flew the airplane for his memorial service, put it in the hangar, and it didn't turn a blade for 7 years. The family just kind of put it away, and so I kept in touch with the family through all those years, and about a year ago I was able to buy it. Again, hadn't turned a blade for 7 years, so a lot of 9 months of work to get it kind of mechanically restored. And this is really my first long cross-country flight, bringing it after a lot of test flying in the local area, flying it back up here to Oshkosh.
Congratulations. We're glad you made it here. And I hope there's many more hours in the future in this airplane is what I hope.
Agreed.
I'm going to go to Mark right now because he's the guy who, I guess, however many years ago, you sat there and you said, I guess you want to build one of these things. There weren't any of them flyable at that point. And go ahead and tell that story, Mark.
Well, a number of these airplanes had gone to A&P mechanic schools across the country, and I don't know, it's reading a magazine or a book, I just stumbled across this, and I thought, it'd be fun to do something that's different. There's fantastic Mustangs and bombers and T-34s and everything out here, but this was just something different. It was very rare and very unique. So I ended up buying 3 airplanes, disassembled that had been in mechanic schools. Some of them were in better condition than others. So Cliff is a great mechanic, runs a good shop there in Rockford, and we do a lot of projects together. So I called Cliff and I said, guess what I've got? A Bonanza for you. And he said, okay. And, well, he found out it was a little different than your stock Bonanza, but he and his team did a fantastic job getting the airplane in the air. I did some test flying on the airplane, which was an interesting flight because the airplane had, I don't know how many pounds of equipment in the back, all of this drone control equipment and all of these relay boxes and stuff, and we didn't have much of that stuff. So first flight, the CG was not exactly correct, and it was pretty interesting. So we went back to the drawing board, as they say, and ended up with a pretty good flying airplane, considering how different it is and the modifications that are on it. So we had the 3 airplanes, and we kind of picked and choose the best parts we could to get the nicest airplane, and I brought the airplane up here in 1992, and I happened to get a little award, which is going to become property of David now.
Oh, Isn't this nice? Look at that.
Oh.
Okay.
Oshkosh 92 Warbirds, most rare. Mark Clark, courtesy aircraft, 22 QU. That's yours.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow.
I told him I had that, and when I saw him the other day, I says, David, I forgot to bring it, which was not quite the truth, but it's yours.
Mark, thank you.
Well,
I really appreciate that.
That is great.
That's very
Okay.
special.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting.
Wow.
All right. So you acquired it, and Cliff, you went to work on this thing. And I got to ask, how much dealing did you do with Beechcraft? Were there anybody there that was able to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, I worked on that. I helped design that," or was this basically all your own? You're an experienced warbird restorer, and that's what you do, but probably not on one of these things. So did you have to go back to the manufacturer and talk to them?
We didn't. We didn't really go to Beech all that much. The airplane was made based off of an A-36, and but we found out that there were parts from other Bonanzas, 35 series, 33, kind of all over. We were able to get some of those parts from Beech. I didn't research back to where, talking to anybody there about it. I know we did actually probably talk to Charlie Nogle, Judd Nogle on some of the Beech type stuff. But a lot of it was we have a full set of maintenance manuals, parts manuals. They even said something on the front of them like classified. I remember that.
I mean, for this
For
model,
this airplane,
this model,
for this
okay.
model airplane, the regular military manuals like that thick, just like you'd see for a T-28 or whatever else. They had really thick manual, and we took the best out of the three projects that Mark has, and the engine and fuselage. And David knows more on this, but the engine and fuselage are all matched. The wings are off of a different one, but. It took about a year and a half to get it all together, and there was some scratch in our heads. I remember the one thing, we wanted to put new wing bolts in it, and we had to figure that out because the original wing bolts, actually the nuts, were made so they could blow up. They had explosive charges in them.
And the reason for that was, hey, if it was flying as a drone and it had a problem, it was going to go down, they said, hey, we want to blow this thing up. So that was how they did it.
Yeah, they had a kind of a rectangular nut with, as I recall, 2 threaded inserts would go into it. Of course, when we got it, there was no charges. And so we had to figure out, okay, what type of bolts, what type of nuts, had to kind of do a little bit there. And it was kind of interesting. I was talking to somebody else about this, yesterday we were talking, is that in the maintenance manual, it gives you the theory of operation, a lot of the things, and the theory of operation on if it got out of control while being a drone, you push this button or whatever. I mean, the operator would. There's nobody in the airplane, and it would set off this charge, which would separate the wings, and the aircraft would develop a high velocity straight down.
Yep.
And it was worded something like that. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, but it also had, when it flew with manned, it had a safety switch. And as a pilot, you made sure the safety switch was in safe before you took off, because otherwise it was armed and ready to blow the wings off with the pilot on board.
Well, I find it interesting. We've kind of gone full circle now in that, this was flown as a drone. Not very many times, but okay, it was, and it was designed to fly as a drone. And I don't know if many people are aware, but the latest bomber that we've got now, the B-21, that is the follow-on to the B-2, that is also designed to be flown as a drone. And it's a big airplane, and when I found that out, I just thought, wow. So yeah, we got a little drone here. Now this B-21 could possibly be flown as a drone.
There you
go. And keep our pink bodies safe. Talking about the engine and airframe time and like that, David, hey, yeah, it matched, like Cliff said. The motor is a GTSIO 520G, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a Gitzo Continental GTSIO 520G. The Cessna 421 used a Gitzo 520-H, which you've flown.
Yep.
That was a well-known engine. They built about 5,000 of them.
And they're a geared motor. That's
Yes.
why you typically see a little bit of a hump up here because it is a geared motor. RPM is a little bit lower. Go ahead.
So they made a -G, and I just met with Continental yesterday, and they're like, no. We never made a -G motor. So they won't, it was a secret program, so no one knows about the -G. So it's basically a 421 engine with a different camshaft. It turns 3,400 RPM on takeoff on the crankshaft. The propeller turns about 2,200 RPM. It's a 33% lower RPM for the propeller than the engine. And the purpose for that was, if you notice the wide chord, they're an 8-inch wide chord, was because the propeller would be quieter over the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So it flew at night at 30,000 feet. At 30,000 feet, the book says it's still climbing 600 feet per minute up. I want to find out. I'm not going to do it for a while. But and what's kind of fun about the engine is when Mark got the airplane, this engine was the serial number engine in this airframe. And this engine has about 250 hours on it because it was put in the airplane in Vietnam. Original cylinders, original crank. The case has never been opened. Of course, we did a boroscope. We're doing oil analysis on it. But to have a 50-year-old Continental engine that's never been opened with the cylinder off is that by itself makes it pretty unique airplane.
Yeah, it is. It's very neat. How about weight-wise? My airplane is 3850 max gross weight. I think this one is maybe a little bit heavier.
A little bit fatter than that. Operationally, this is an A36, basically, the fuselage. And an A36 Bonanza is rated for 3,600 pounds normally. You can get STC upgrade for 3,850.
There you go.
This airplane routinely flew at 5,200 pounds, so almost 2,000 pounds over gross weight.
And if the CG is not correct, Mark, it doesn't fly very well.
Yes, it's time to come back and land pretty quick
and try to flare
it
with.
It was interesting.
I've got 170 pounds of ballast in the back because the electronics weighed about 2,000 pounds, and so even today it holds 203 gallons of fuel. The mains hold essentially 80 gallons with 3 bladders. The tips are 20 gallons a side. Unlike a normal Bonanza in most aircraft with a selectable left-right fuel selector, it's got on and it's got off. Keep it simple for the military.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of a fuel imbalance coming up. The book says you can fly with all the fuel on one side and it's still flyable. I don't want to find out, but it flies great. It flies heavy. You take an A36 Bonanza and make it 1,000 pounds over gross legally with this airplane, and the pitches. I'm an aerobatic pilot. The roll is slower because it's got 4-foot wing extensions on both wings, so the roll is slower. The pitch is heavy, would be expected by an airplane like this, but it flies great. I fly it at 27 squared. It burns 20 gallons an hour at 27 squared, rich at peak. And cylinder head temperatures were below 350. Oil temperature was below 180. It worked great. Flew great on the way up here.
How about in its mission status? How long did they want it to fly up? How long would it be in an orbit up there typically?
The goal was an 8-hour orbit. So this airplane with 200 gallons of fuel, throttled back at 30,000, 6 to 8 hours. Amazingly, Brian Studer somehow obtained the original Vietnam era documentation. I've got the handwritten pilot logs from Vietnam for this airplane. And I looked at most of them. There were 6 to 7 hour missions, typically manned. And most of them were manned, if not all of them were manned in Vietnam when it was operationally used. And they'd fly. I've got the secret, now declassified documents that shows the purple, the yellow holding patterns they flew, typically at night with the airplane.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, when you built this thing, did you build it to sell it? I mean, was that the what you really wanted to do?
Well, that's really what I do, is sell airplanes. But I've been very fortunate to be involved in a lot of unique airplanes, mostly Warbirds over the years, and I just thought this was kind of a fun challenge to do. I didn't think I would keep it forever and ever, and certainly I'm so glad David ended up with it because he's done so much more research on the airplane, and I think you've done a fantastic job with telling the story of this airplane, and now we're live on the air and streamed, and lots of people can hear about the airplane, and so I'm sure you'll be taking it to other air shows in the future and continuing this program, the story.
Absolutely.
Is the paint job authentic? Is that how it was painted in the watercolors?
I'll give Mark and Cliff credit for that. This is the paint from '92. When I got it, I really kind of thought I was going to have to repaint it, and we did an extensive detail job on it. We can save the paint. The paint's going to be salvageable, but this is authentic. The color, I think the hue is pretty close to the gray The designations, they did a great job with the designations. I've got in-flight photos of this airplane in Vietnam and doing a detailed analysis of the in-flight photos. It's authentic. This is the way it looked in Nam. The only difference was it had a bigger hump over the cowling because it had a 6,000 watt, 400 hertz AC generator, and that generator ran the de-icing boots, it ran the electronics in the back, and ran some of the equipment for the aircraft. That's been removed, of course, because we don't want the weight and the height.
That was probably that much higher.
Yep.
So with that big thing there, it's almost like flying a tail dragger. You have to use your peripheral vision.
Exactly.
Which was another interesting, I got a lot of tail dragger time, so it really wasn't difficult. But it's this is not really a Bonanza, kids.
Well, it's kind of like driving a 454 Chevy. The shaker hoods they had on the big. It's this big shaker hood, and it sounds like a 454 when you start it up. So yeah, it's kind of fun.
Well, and you can tell there's something a little bit strange here. He's got a ground power panel here. It says 24 volts DC, and it's just like I got on mine. But then you go down a little lower. It says 150 volts, 400 hertz, 3-phase external power. You kind of go, huh? And that was, to power up all the secret stuff in the back. Is that right?
Yep. And the pilots were in fact, we had a reunion with the pilots. Brian Studer did, and several of them reached out to me. The pilots didn't even know what the thing did. They didn't know, but they knew what it did. So real quick, the purpose was, and you may have seen that, you saw the video, but there were sensors on the Ho Chi Minh Trail that would transmit, but they couldn't transmit into Thailand for them to be decoded. So this airplane, I'll use the word parked, at 30,000 feet in an orbit, and those signals came up to this airplane. It decoded the information, then transmitted into Thailand for review.
And those sensors, there were a variety of sensors. There were seismic sensors, so they could feel the vibration. There were smell sensors down too. It was really weird. I did a little study here, and they had a variety of sensors again, but it'd be transmitted up here. And some of those sensors, oh, by the way, I heard they were deployed down on the Mexican border for a while too. So I found that kind of interesting. But that's what it did. It took that information, like you say, and the back was just packed.
In fact, under the seats were. In fact, I think one of you were sharing with me, if not Mike Thompson, is an American Banana Society technical rep. He's putting one together, so he'd never seen one in life. Mm-hmm. Remember, this is probably all of you. The only place you'll ever see this airplane again is here or at the Wright-Patterson Museum, because that's it. That's all there is. Anyway, but he was really excited to see the airplane.
Yep, and you were talking about de-ice. There's no boots. It had boots, right? And from a de-icing, they had boots on the leading edge of the wing. And what else?
Everything.
Heated prop?
Yeah. Heated prop, yep. The tail. And amazingly enough, about a year ago, I heard about a Gitzo 520G that some community college had. It's like, no, they don't have one from 1971. They did. And it was on a test stand. It ran, complete prop, all the way firewall forward. And fortunately, I was able to get a trade with them, and I have it now in my hangar. So I've got a complete firewall forward of this engine, this airframe's engine, and the serial number for this engine is like 3516. That serial number is 3517. So I've got sequentially two Gitzo 520Gs that Continental says don't exist. I've got two of them now.
Yeah, and this one's only got how many hours on it?
250 hours.
Okay, so you got a ways to go.
We hope. We'll see.
Yeah. Yep. That's the good news. All right. How about let's see, timing-wise? Yeah, we can walk around this thing a little bit, if you will. So, David, jump up here and let's just walk around. And we've already talked about some of the differences. We talked about the prop. He actually said the prop is from an MU-2. Is that right?
Yeah, it's an MU-2 prop. If you look at this, it's an 8-inch blade cord on the blade. And I've never heard it from the ground because I've always been in the airplane. But everyone says, wow, it sounds so quiet. Yeah. Because most of you may know, like a T6. The T6 noise isn't from the engine. You're like, wow. It's from the blades going supersonic. Mm-hmm. So if you slow the blades down, they get more efficient and they're quieter. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the hump like the 421 does. The whole in here is the turbo system. Mm-hmm. It's not a 421 turbo. It's from a Cummins diesel truck from 1970. at 30,000 feet, the wastegate's not even closed. So you know from your beaters, you got the the closed wastegate at about 25,000. This one doesn't close till about 33, and I'm going to make it a goal for high altitude report. I think it'll go to 40,000 feet.
Okay.
Yep.
And speaking
it's
about
it's unpressurized like your B-36.
Yeah. How about oxygen? What do you got on board? You got a big bottle?
Yeah, I've got air ox bottles. I've got one behind the seat. I got another one behind the other seat. Right now, I've just got the regular mask, but I've just bought a pressure mask that I'm going to start to work with.
What did they have way back when?
Yeah, it had in fact, Mark, did it have the oxygen bottles in it when you got it?
I don't remember. I don't think it did.
Yeah, my other
Cliff,
one.
did you put one in or anything?
No, I didn't have it.
You never took it up high.
No.
Okay.
I didn't want to get more than 2,000 feet in it.
Yeah.
All right. I was just wondering how.
Yeah, it had regular Air Force diluter, 100% oxygen, just like like we had in the Air Force.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so coming across, there was a Bonanza came out with an aerobatic Bonanza called an E-33C, and then later an F-33C, and these are the jettisonable doors. So Beechcraft, at this era, I think was one of the high points of Beechcraft. They came out with the A-36 in '69. They came out with the aerobatic Bonanza. They came out with the B-58 Baron. The Duke was around that time. So Beechcraft really had a lot of technology. So, for example, the tail, we'll walk around there, but the tail is a F-30 or a 33 model, the horizontal stabilizer, but the rudder is a kind of a Baron. It's got Baron wings, and Mike Thompson helped me see this because there's plates on the bottom that has Baron wings. Something kind of cool, in the military we fly with angle of attack. It's got an AOA indicator on it, still on it.
Was that original? I mean,
Yeah.
it was there way back when?
They had AOA.
Oh, wow.
Yep. The fuel caps are outboard, so your B-36TC copies a lot of these things. In fact, this is a serial number EA-14.
Yeah. I'm EA-358.
I'm sorry, EB. This is EB-314.
I'm an
That's
EA.
14. And you're an EA,
Yep.
and the ABS Society thinks, well, there's some tie-in with what Beechcraft did with the EB serial numbers on these and the EAs with yours.
Okay.
4-foot wing extensions. If you want to come over look at the wings, it's pretty funny. They're structural, but they ain't pretty. They just kind of bolted them on. It's kind of a teardrop looking thing. It's got 3 wing bladders. With bulletproof wing bladders, so if it got shot, in fact, you guys chime in real quick. You guys found some of the foam that was in there.
They had some of the foam to keep them from exploding when they got hit and seal up the holes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that stuff after a while disintegrates. So we took all of that stuff out. So it doesn't have that foam in it anymore.
Doesn't have it anymore. And so fortunate, I hadn't filled the airplane up full. It hadn't probably been full in 20 years when I got it. So the first time I filled it up, it was a 5,000 long runway. And you don't know, bladders that aren't full for that long, no, not so good. But it's not leaking, so we're hopeful the bladders will make it through all that. Tip tanks, 20-gallon aluminum tip tanks. The control surfaces are pretty much F-33A, E-33A control surfaces. However, what's kind of fun about this airplane, the original data plate, people say, well, it's an A-36. It was a certified airplane. Nope, it's not. This is a model 1079 per the data plate. So the airplane was never certified. So many people may know this because you're Warbird people, but none of these Warbirds have a standard type certificate because they weren't certified by the FAA. This was never certified by the FAA. So this is also under exhibition-only experimental Warbird status. Yep.
Okay. How about flaps? How much flaps you got on this thing? Is this just like my B-36?
40.
Okay, so you got 40 flaps.
40.
And is it a two-position switch?
No. It's down or up.
Okay.
But it's got NULO. Okay, real quick. So a term was coined with this, I think this airplane, NULLO, not under local live operation. NULO. Why would you call it unmanned? But they call it, military's got their own terms. And even now, the F-16 drone is a NULO airplane. So in the middle of my positions, so you'll never see a Bonanza with a 3-position gear switch, up, NULO, and down. So a lot of that original stuff is still in the airplane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
These are a TACAN antenna that fortunately Mark or whoever left these on the airplane. This is it's like a VOR, but we use it in the military. We use TACAN. Like I mentioned, it's got the rudder. It's got rudder trim. I will tell you, it's necessary. When I took off the first time, and again, fortunately, I'd flown high-performance airplane with a lot of torque, but when you get that last inch of throttle, I've got my right foot almost on the floor, and I'm tapping the right brake. It doesn't roll over like a P-51 would, but it's got a lot. It's 375 horsepower, so it's not your mama's Bonanza.
And you're getting 36 inches of manifold pressure on
36
takeoff?
inches.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. How about the doors? Are the doors the same?
You may notice the doors and the other side. People say, no, it's a Debonair because it doesn't have the back windows, or an early model. No, it's an A36 fuselage, but they didn't put the window in the back. So that's why and it's covered up to keep the heat off the electronics and for secret, so no one knew what it was.
And dual controls up front?
They didn't from the factory have dual controls. They had dual brakes. So the original Bonanzas, you remember, had the throw-over yoke.
Right.
That's what it had from the factory.
Yep.
I've got dual yokes in it now, but it did have factory dual brakes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, going to the tail now. You said you talked about the rudder trim. Everything else kind of looks pretty standard back
Pretty
here.
standard. Magnesium elevators, so I'm going to take these off and redo these because they do need to have a little bit of love on that to protect them from the deterioration.
And this nut right here is supposed to spin, and and it does.
Oh
Perfect.
my goodness,
Okay.
we're getting a partial annual inspection right now.
Yep.
It's got a big scoop on top, which the electronics were really hot. I can't imagine flying this thing in Vietnam. Oh, Vietnam with all this equipment. It wasn't a mission that I think, it wasn't your first choice out of pilot training. I think the men that did it I really appreciate, but it would have been a challenging mission and dangerous. Think about flying in thunderstorms at night over Vietnam with no weather radar and really no ground radar. It would have been challenging.
And they were flying with parachutes too, right? I mean, if you flew this thing, you had to have a parachute.
Full parachute,
Yep.
Full inertial reel. It doesn't have the original seats. I'm going to probably get those at some point because it had an original seat, a military seat with the inertial reel built into the seat. I have put shoulder harnesses in it because I'm a shoulder harness kind of guy. Yep.
How about landing gear? The gear is basically, again, a standard A36 landing gear. Nothing. I mean, to beef it up for the extra weight or something like that.
Yeah,
they didn't do anything.
And this is where the American Bonanza Society came in. I thought the Baron had a different gear than the A36. It doesn't. Same part number. So it's the Baron A36 E33 gear, which was overbuilt for the Bonanza, but about right for this airplane. It's got a large exhaust tube out the back, all these various humps on the side for cooling. It's got intercooler on top. This whole cowl comes off, which is really nice, by the way. Kind of a nice mod, and it comes off pretty easy. It's heavy. It's a heavy cowl.
Yeah.
Did it have the big hump cowl when you got it?
Yeah, I don't know who took that off.
Yeah, somebody built a new cowl and cut this off or lowered it, which is a good thing though, because it runs a lot cooler. They had temperature problems with them in Vietnam, so it runs quite cool now.
How about glass? Cliff, did you guys end up putting new glass in it? Windscreen and do you remember?
I actually don't recall.
Okay.
If we did or not.
It looks
looks
good.
pretty good.
It had been inside all the time when the school got it. So
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, and they mentioned the lights under the wings. That's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah. So when I get the airplane fired up, and I pre-oiled it and spun it up and got the oil pressure up and all that because I hadn't flown for 7 years, and I turned the landing lights on, and that kind of makes sense. That's a Beechcraft landing light. But there's a floodlight switch. I turn this floodlight switch on, and it shines light on the ground. It's like, well, I can't even see it from the cockpit. And I figured out that was for drone operations. So they're trying to flare this airplane off at night over the runway, and these lights would shine down on the runway. And then, in addition, like some of the Navy airplanes have got, it's got some small lights right here that I just found out yesterday from Mike Thompson. He believes those are to let the ground crew know that the landing gear was down. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Yep. Interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, there's a few differences. That's all I can say.
And I'll tell you, I flew it up here I've had it to 17,000. At 17,000, wide open, it was still 2,000 feet per minute up.
Okay.
So I've got two goals, but I'm not going to hurt the airplane doing this. If it gets, people would think, well, you're up high, the engine would run cooler. As you well know, that's not the case because there's less airflow.
Yep.
But my goal is to take it to 40,000, I hope, and do a cross-country speed record with it. I think it'll do 300 knots downwind in the jet stream.
Are you going to take Mark with you?
I'll watch you on flight.
No. You watch me from the ground.
No, that would be an awesome thing to do. And I think that was one of the reasons that the airplane intrigued me. It was just different, and it was an untold story. It was classified. When we brought the airplane up in '92, we had the yellow tape around it. We had a bunch of signs made, stealth, and I wanted to get somebody with a machine gun, like the current military, on some of their stealth airplanes. They wouldn't provide anybody to guard it for me.
So a friend of mine who's in the stands is building me a beautiful AR-15 with the QU-22B on the side. So maybe I'll put it up next to the airplane when I bring it up next time.
Yeah. What was the call sign when they were over there?
Yeah, so these were known as the vampires and also the Batcats.
Okay.
So fun story for me, when I started researching the airplane, I flew for the Sioux City, Iowa Air National Guard, the 185th and the 174th. And they're the Sioux City Bats. And the F-16, you may have seen the one with the big bat on the tail. In fact, the gold F-16, the gold 50th anniversary F-16, that was our unit.
That was yours?
Oh, yes. Colonel Swanstrom got all kinds of heat for that. But it was cool. And I flew that jet, actually. So this is a Batcat. So call sign was Bat. And I flew for the 56 Fighter Wing in MacDill Air Force Base when I went through F-16 school. And this was assigned to the 56 Recon Wing in Thailand.
Wow. Wow.
His patch here says the eyes of Laotian Highway Patrol.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a highway patrol.
Yeah.
And
Can I see your insurance and your license, please?
Yeah, exactly. Make sure.
Get pulled over.
Get pulled over. And these patches are original. I was able to get the original patches from Vietnam, and then the other one is the eye of the cat. So it was the Recon Squadron patch.
Do the pilots who really flew this thing, do they get together? Do you correspond? I mean, I would think they would be very proud of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And do you have any contact with those guys?
So Brian Studer in 2012 did a reunion with about 15, 18 of them. And many of them had not seen the airplane since Vietnam. Because, again, there was only 27 of them made originally, and there's only 2 of them really left. And they took some of them flying. Currently, I'm in touch with 3 or 4 of them because, now it's been Vietnam. They're getting up in their age, 75, 80 years old, as we all know. But, yes, I really want to do that with the people that have flown this airplane. And please, if anyone who's watching the podcast is or knows of or worked on, I'd love to find somebody that flew at remote control and somebody who worked at Beechcraft when it was built. So they'll have their contact information through you guys, but love to do as much with the veterans that were part of the airplane at that point in time.
Yeah. And as long as we're speaking of veterans, I do this every time. Veterans in the audience, please rise. I'd just like to recognize you. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much. We've got a little time left for some questions, but before we do that, anything you guys want to add? Cliff, what was the most difficult thing for in putting this thing back together to make it fly?
Oh, probably just sourcing some of the parts that didn't come with the project, and then figuring out which. Even though we had the military manual, sometimes the parts didn't quite line up. And we had a lot of talks about the engine marking. I did with Continental. I did with engine shops, and they all swore there wasn't a -G. Right. So. But we didn't want to open it up, and then all of a sudden it was just a part of the engine shop
put it back together again. It's like, we took the part, took it apart, but now we got to, yeah.
So that was a big concern, and we spent some time on that. And one thing, going back to 1992, I spent all 7 days or whatever it was here around that airplane telling people about it, me and another guy. And then it kind of disappeared.
Right.
For 30 years. And found out about this, met David week ago, and it's just kind of cool, as a mechanic in a shop, and you do something special like this, and you kind of want it to get a little bit of notoriety, and it did for 1992.
Right.
And then when it came back out, and his friend Brian, who owned it and did all this research on it, and David's taken it to that next level, and it's just kind of cool to see it here.
Yeah, it's very cool. Any corrosion issues? Did you find anything of consequence?
No.
Mark said it stayed inside for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So-
It was, Beechcraft's airplanes generally, other than the magnesium control surfaces, as you know, are really very well built. Everything is zinc chromated as it goes together. And I think they really did a nice job. And I think it's interesting, you talk about the crews and talking to some of the people. Well, I'm hoping that some people that see this program online are going to say, I know a guy that told me about something, but he couldn't really tell me.
Yeah.
But they'll be coming out of the woodwork, hopefully.
And people were community colleges. A couple of people, hey, I knew a QU-22 was at my community college and those type of things. Anybody with knowledge of the Q will be able to click like and communicate with you guys to get my contact information, and I'm more than willing to share that.
That's the purpose of our program here.
Yep.
And thank you, Mark, for doing that. And Cliff had.
I was just say, back in '92, there was still stuff that was classified about it too. And now that stuff's some of that's been released.
It's been open, yep. And what's fun about this, when you guys put it together, the airplane. This is kind of an amazing fact. So I got the original logbooks. July of 1970 was when it was commissioned in Vietnam. In 1.5 years, it flew 1,550 hours. Mm-hmm. So it flew almost 800 hours a year. Very long mission profiles. It probably only had maybe, 100 flights because they're all long flights. It had 1,556 in 1972. It went to the Davis-Monthan Boneyard. It's now got 1,650. It's only flown 100 hours in 50 years. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of one of those, fortunately, it's been taken care of and in the hangar.
How about combat losses? How many people did we lose in this airplane?
I think 3 or 4 were lost, and unfortunately it was due to engine failure. In fact, I've got the accident report of one. It had 600 hours on the engine, and it sucked a valve. He lived, but I've got the whole accident report on that. I think the Gitzo is a reliable engine run correctly. But I think they ran them really hard. They did change the TBO in the military to 500 hours on them. Okay. So that's part of the documentation. But 4 crew were lost and 7 airframes were lost in Vietnam. And like I say, now because of through the years, and back in the 70s, the fact that this exists, because in the 70s, some of you may know, Vietnam, they were taking Hueys, pushing them off the edge of aircraft carriers. They were surplus. Who cares about this stuff? So the fact that this is a straight original airplane, and I've got the computer cards, the data computer cards that they use to document the engine and all the stuff in the Air Force. I've got the original cards, the data cards for it. So all that stuff was just thrown away. So this airplane is quite complete with documentation and history, and it's thankful to everybody who through the years kept it together.
I got to ask, there's no self-protection on this airplane. And it's up there at 30,000
There's
feet
one, pull the door.
Yeah. But I guess my
that's
question,
all the only one.
He's got a book, and I don't know where you got the documents, but you showed some of the orbits of where this thing went round and round.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just wondering, was it susceptible to, so an SA-2 down there, were SAMs nearby with AAA and
they flew over Cambodia.
Okay.
So most of your electronic warfare, and like tankers, like a tanker that you and I would hook up to, they're always behind the FIBA, the line of battle, because you don't want to blow your tanker out of the sky. So these were back 50, 60 miles from the Ho Chi Minh Trail to protect them. I don't think any of them ever got shot at. And they were 30,000 feet, and if they would have got shot at, it would have been a bad day.
That would have been it.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thanks. Anything we missed? Anything you guys want to cover? I'm going to open it up to questions otherwise. Okay. All right. In that case, I'm going to say, okay, folks, how about questions? Do we have any questions in the audience? There's one up top there. Was it made in Wichita? Was it built in Wichita?
So I've got pictures of it. It was made at the Beechcraft factory. It's a factory Beechcraft aircraft. That's why my altitude record, assuming I do it, will be a production aircraft. This is produced. All the modifications are Beechcraft. I've got, like Mark said, I've got the maintenance manual, the parts manual, which were hard to find, but it's all Beechcraft made from the factory at Wichita. I've never met anybody from Beechcraft who was on the airplane, but that would be fantastic. But yes, it's Beechcraft, Wichita manufactured airplane.
Okay, and if you're going to set a record in a Beechcraft, wouldn't it be reasonable to maybe talk to somebody? Maybe they can help sponsor you.
Hey.
That's all I can say. Or maybe Courtesy Aircraft could step in there and say, hey.
We've done our part.
You've done your part. You put it together.
But, you know, so many of the Beech airplanes that are former military airplanes, Beech really doesn't want much to do with them. And like Continental doesn't admit that engine exists. And so Beech is a fantastic company, but some of the support on the ex-military airplanes, they're not all that excited about it.
Not there. I understand. All right, another question. Okay, there's one up there in the corner. Go ahead, sir. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, no microphone.
All right. Oh, Kyle's. No.
Try it again.
Oh, there we go.
Are we live?
Hey.
Yep. Okay, now there are three questions. Number one is, was this ever flown with a two-man crew in the missions? The second is, was a cabin ever pressurized? And third is, the intake, why is it at such an angle on the front there?
Okay. Try to remember all three. Can I remember
First, okay, how many people flew in this thing?
So there is pictures of it with two people, probably for training, because it does have right-hand side brakes. Because remember, as an Air Force pilot, we come out from the T-38. We're jet guys. And now all of a sudden you're putting a jet guy in a Bonanza. And most military pilots don't have, light aircraft experience. So yes, they flew them with two crew for training. But in Vietnam, all the pictures I have, it's just a single seat. It's a military seat with inertial reel. And there's electronic warfare. But even to get electronic components, it's even difficult to get in and out of them. So a single crew for operations in Vietnam.
Okay. Next, how about the intake? You were talking about the intake?
Yeah.
The angle.
Yeah. So the intake. Remember, this is the only part that's Beechcraft is the lower rails and some of the lower cowl. Everything else is whatever, a modification. And the Gitzo, because it sucks so much air for that big, huge turbo, they wanted a bigger air filter. And there was some area of the turbo that's over in here, so I needed to relocate it for the turbocharger because it's no longer a regular 520 or 550 engine, direct drive. It's a geared engine, so all of that lower area is totally different.
Okay, and there was one more question. What was the last one? Oh, pressurized. Was it ever pressurized?
Would have been nice. Would have been nice. No. Pressurization for an aircraft adds so much weight. So they made a pressurized Baron for several years, and it really was not that popular. It adds several hundred pounds of weight to it. Of course, it's nice for the crew, but no, these guys are flying 30, 35,000 feet without any pressurization.
Okay. All right. Any other questions out there? All I can say is beautiful airplane. Interesting airplane.
There we go.
Oh, we got one. There we go, right there in the corner.
So I worked in AMS Squadron instrument shop. We never had anybody that worked on electronic surveillance in the AMS Squadron. Who fixed the electronics?
Excellent question. So you're saying you were in Viet or in Thailand, or you worked in got it, not with this particular aircraft. The support of the aircraft is something I really don't have a lot of data on. What I do know is the pilots and the crew chiefs, from my understanding, did not know anything about what was in the back of it. They knew it was electronic. But I think because it was such a classified mission, the military back in those days, it's kind of changed in recent years because we have top secret clearances. But the theory in those days was, hey, we don't want to put you at risk if you get shot down, so we won't tell you what it is. So if you don't know, you can't get in trouble. So I don't think the maintenance crews knew the back electronics. Raytheon is the group, and I think E-Systems was the one that did the spoof equipment. And I've got some documentation. In fact, one of the judges for the EAA, he goes, I've got all this stuff from the back. Really? And I've got another friend in Texas that's got 6 or 8 of the actual sensors from the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So I'm putting those pieces together along the way to make it a complete package.
Yeah, that'd be neat to have some of those sensors be able to say, "Oh, this is what it was listening to."
He offered to let me bring it up, and it didn't work out for him to bring it up this time. But 2027, it'll be on the front cover of the ABS magazine, and it'll be in the tent at the American Banana Society in 2027. I'll be at Sun and Fun. I'll be at the ABS convention, the American Banana Society convention in September.
In Wichita.
in Wichita, and you'll be there as well.
I'd like to be there. I used to live there for a long time.
Hopefully there'll be a lot of Beechcraft retirees.
Yeah.
If Beech can kind of publicize that. Some of these people may come out of the woodwork, and that might be very
Good point.
cool.
Yep.
Good point.
When do you think you're going to try to set this record?
As a military pilot, we always take things in stages. I want to get at least 6 months on it, work the bugs out. It's flying great. And I've got a friend that took his RV-4 to 42,000 feet, but he blew up 2 engines doing it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to do that. In fact, one guy, I can put a bigger turbocharger on it and do it. No. So when I take it in stage, when I get to 25,000, I'll fly a couple flights, see what it does, and 30, because it routinely threw at 30,000. But you don't know what these airplanes are going to do. And I don't believe in pushing them beyond what's reasonable. And if I do the 40,000-foot flight, I'm going to go to the Mojave. I'm a high-altitude glider pilot. And you may or may not know this. We routinely fly gliders to 25,000, 30,000 feet in the mountain wave. So I'll get mountain wave current and then jump in the mountain wave with this to get me to the 40,000, and then for my high-speed cross-country speed record, I'll jump in the jet stream and go downwind with the jet stream.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
And who's maintaining? You got a good maintenance shop, or are you going to be looking at Cliff, or there's you're going to be stressing this airplane. I mean, big time. There's no question in my mind.
Well, and again, it'll be step by step, but yeah, I've got a great shop. Mark Artizone at Aeromark in Addison, well, not Addison. He's at McKinney, Texas, and Mike Thompson loves the airplane. He's going to fly down here and work. My shop said, "Yep, have him come in. We'll all work together." But it's, for example, the gear transmission that makes the landing gear go up and down. If you don't set the limit switches right, it runs over center and hits the stop. So it had to be overhauled. We went through the whole fuel system. And again, if you're going to take an older airplane and bring it back, do it right. Because the seals get dry, so that was all redone. New vacuum pump. The prop was overhauled about 6 years ago. It had a huge generator on the side for the direct current, and on the geared engines, if that shaft goes out, it tears out your whole front end you're in. So I did it with the new Continental. So we did I haven't got the bill yet.
How about instrumentation? Do you have an engine monitor on it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I believe in that. It's got the JPI 930, so I can look at every the turbo inlet temperature, each EGT, the CHT, and like I say, it's running cool. But yes, that's not original. It had these vertical gauges in it from the factory, which didn't work very well. So I've got a JPI. I just bought a Garmin a 355, GNC 355 for IFR navigation. But the gauges are original. The airspeed is the original Beechcraft airspeed, because in the military, we don't fly with like a white arc and a green arc. We fly off angle of attack, and we're expected to know our speeds. So it's got a red line at 206 knots indicated, and that's all it's got. But I've got that, and the original altimeter and the original vertical speed are in the aircraft.
And angle of attack, you just got a small indicator somewhere?
Yeah, so...
And do you fly that primary for approach?
I'm getting there. So okay. I've only flown the airplane 7 flights. I think we talked about it. I've got 10 hours in the airplane. You've got about 10 hours in the airplane.
Not any more than that.
We're the highest time QU-22B pilots in the world right now, probably, except for the from Vietnam. But my Uvanix AV30 has got angle of attack in it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that's going to be my primary head. I don't want to cut the panel. I'm not going to make it all glass. This is a historic airplane. I'm going to keep it historic. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Looks like that's about it. Oh, what? There's one in the corner over there. Go ahead. You can have it.
Sure. His question is the drone capabilities. So people, this is going to be written in the EA magazine and the AOPA magazine, but I think it was Aviation Week. I did an interview with them 3 days ago, and that was a question, and he was very knowledgeable. So question people ask, is this the first drone? It's not. Remember in World War II, they had drones, but they were a one-way drone. They flew one way, and that was it. In terms of a recoverable drone, yeah, this is pretty early on, if maybe not one of the first ones. The ground, I've got pictures of it. In fact, I can show you the book if you want to afterwards. I've got pictures of the drone operator in a 1970 Ford Bronco, big tower station right here, and a guy with a little remote control station flying it down to flare it off the runway. And the airplane's kind of tilted like this. It's kind of it's like, anyway. And the next picture I've got in my book, which I'll have a book out here in probably a year, is one that didn't work out so well. It's crashed by the side of the runway. So it didn't always work. But then when it got to beyond visual line of sight, BVLR, then there's a guy in a cab, can't see anything. You were asking about cameras. There was no cameras on it. You couldn't see out of it because back then they didn't have lightweight cameras. So he sat in a cab using the TACAN signals to use navigation. It has, I've still got the original throttle control. He could run the throttle. He could run the brakes. He could run the cowl flaps. Every control in the airplane he could operate as a drone, as if he was flying it. But he had no feedback from the airplane except for pitch and attitude, where it was at, airspeed, and that was it. And the big red button that you push to blow the wings off, it didn't go well. Yeah, that was it. So it was a handoff from the visual guy to the guy in the cab to fly the airplane. I got pictures of all that, which is kind of cool.
All right, any more? I think we're about done here, and I am going to say thank you. Thank you to David for bringing the airplane here,
Appreciate
for your
that.
knowledge.
Thanks, Ed.
Yep, Mark, thank you. And Cliff, again, appreciate what you've done for the Warbird community and bringing this thing here.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, folks,
Thank you for that.
that's it for this year. 2026 is going to be interesting. Well, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to have, but thanks so much for supporting Warbirds in Review, Warbirds in general, and hey, come back again next year. So thank you very much.
We were made for grass, made to feel the joy of each and every blade. Between our toes, across our backs, to run over its hills, marvel at its beauty, and find comfort in its stillness. We were made for grass. It's where we battled and celebrated, built monuments, grew families, forged memories, and pushed ourselves farther than ever before. We were made for grass, to care for, nurture, and cultivate. We've always made sure to have a patch of our own, because there's no greater feeling than being on the grass, except leaving it.
On January 17, 1942, Chief of U.S. Army Air Forces Henry H. Hap Arnold assigned the responsibility for one of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's highest military priorities, a payback attack on the Japanese home islands, to one of the most famous aviators in history, Lieutenant Colonel James H. Doolittle. In a mere 66 days, Doolittle had identified the airplanes that could be modified to launch a carrier-based attack some 450 miles from Japan, had assembled the volunteer crews, modified the Mitchell B-25s to give them the range to reach a safe haven in free China after the raid, and accomplished the mapping and charting the crews would require. Now on March 23, 1942, Doolittle assembled the men who had been training for the mission at their training base near Fort Walton Beach, Florida. It was time to fly the planes west to the Sacramento, California Air Depot for final adjustments. As he had before, Doolittle offered any man who wanted to the ability to leave the highly dangerous mission without recrimination. None did.
You don't take off on a mission like this without a light at the end of the tunnel. We all thought that somehow we'd get out of it.
Well, in the training in Florida, we were always flying just above the water all the time, right down over the river valleys and between the trees. And then we head stopped all the way across the United States to Alameda, just down as low as we could fly.
Yeah, I think Bill asked me if I would go as his co-pilot, and I said, well, of course.
Somewhere along the line, they interject the thing that it was a suicide mission. I don't think it was any more of a suicide mission than the guys taking off from England, going over to Germany. It was just signs of the times, and that's the way it had to be. And that's the way it was, and that's the way it was accepted.
I'm Gary Sinise, and this is Missions That Changed the War.
To me, lawn service is a scam.
There's no lawn service for you.
Unfortunately, I don't trust them very much because I don't know what they're putting down.
Nobody's going to pay attention to your lawn like you do.
It's the whole point of owning a home is that you maintain your own lawn.
We've taken care of this lawn from day one.
I take pride in it, and when people tell me it looks good, it makes me feel even better.
Do you use a lawn service?
Absolutely not. I have you.
I know what I'm putting down when I put Scott's down. I'm putting down a great product.
STS-27 was my third launch, and it was only the second launch after the Challenger accident. Well, I will never forget, we maneuvered the arm, and Mike Mullane was my arm operator, so he moved the arm over there, and we brought up the television image of the right wing, and I looked at what I was seeing, and I said to myself, we are gonna die.
You know, plants aren't so different from us, are they, Ryan?
Plants need food like people need food.
And that's right, and they do tell us what they need, like this really good organic plant food from Miracle-Gro.
It's just as important as soil, sunlight, and water.
Ryan the philosopher. And you know what this one is telling me? She needs a spicy martharita and a lounge chair by the pool. These peppers look hangry, Ryan. Feed them, don't just stand there. You know, we started this controversy about whether this is dirt or soil.
Everyone's all up in arms about it.
So what do you call it?
You say dirt, I say soil, you say soil.
When do I say soil? I never say soil.
You just did.
There was a day in 2011 when I'm told I was the highest person on Earth. Literally. On that day, I traveled to the space equivalent altitude of 70,000 feet.
Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
It was a voyage to the edge of infinity. For a few minutes that I will remember for the rest of my life, I stared through the frost formed on the canopy of our aircraft as deeply as I could into forever. I'm Gary Sinise, and this was my high flight.
Thank you so much.
There will be a time on Wednesday when you're the highest person on Earth.
Congratulations on that. Yeah. You got it. That'll be good for you. Good for the wall. How are you? I'm Gary. Thank you.
Gathered to celebrate a life of relentless evil. And though I gave you a quick death, it was not mercy. It was Ortho Ground Clear Weed and Grass Killer.
Kill 'em all!
Ortho Ground Clear kills really fast and for organic gardening. Speed you can trust.
So he comes back in a few minutes with a guy about his age, same size. He says, "Now, this is the camp commander." And I said to myself, "Oh, yeah, this was Saturday morning." I said, "Oh, yeah, these guys were out drinking beer last night." They said, "Oh, we're going to have some fun with a new guy." He asked, "Will you write your autobiography?" I said, "Nope." He talked in Vietnamese. He says, "He asked you one last time?" I said, "No." He talked to me. He says, "He orders you to write your autobiography." I said, "I take my orders from the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force." He talked a little more in Vietnamese, and he says, "One more time?" I shook my head. And the camp commander looks up in very good English and says, "You will be very sorry." Got up and walked out. 2 or 3 minutes later, this big guy comes in, biggest Vietnamese I saw. And they put me on the ground, pulled my arms back up behind me. I couldn't do it again. My life depended on it. My palms were together behind my neck. I could scratch my neck. And they put Vietnamese handcuffs right there. And they walked out. And I thought, this ain't a big deal. About 5 minutes later, my hands were numb, my arms were numb, and shortly my shoulders were numb, and pretty soon my chest was numb. And it proved, for me at least, the whole point was, we can make you do it. What that sergeant had said. We'll show you that we run this camp. You'll do what we tell you to do. Then that night, when you were asking, this was really my low point. When I ate that meal and realized that I had been broken. And so I went over and leaned up against a wall, just slumped down, and there was one light way over in the corner. And I looked up, and it just kept attracting my attention. And I remember thinking it was like Moses in the burning bush, I guess. And I sat there and I looked at the light, and whether it was a split second or an hour, I can't tell you. But I had an experience of something happened to me, and it was all over. I feel very comfortable, very secure. You're going to live, you're going to get out of this, and you'll go home someday.
What do you love the most about air races? Camaraderie. Everybody is friends, everybody helps each other, and we're all very professional and have a great time.
Some say we're crazy. I'd put it more, we have a deep affliction and a commitment to the skills and the practice of aviation, and we love it.
Came for the airplanes and the races, but we keep coming back for the family.
The Section 3 people were just all over me, wanting me to autograph every part of their body, and it was great. I love Section 3.
If you like P-51s, if you like Warbirds, you like jets, you just like tinkering with airplanes, this is the place.
What's the best part about the air races?
Everything. It's the people that makes it unique.
Whole lot of love.
Whole lot of love.
Whole lot of love.
Whole lot of love.
Control, Sport Gold take about 3 minutes from the start.
Sport Gold Flight Bridge Control, cleared onto the course.
Copy, cleared on the course.
230 at 17, gust 27, break.
Nice job, guys. Everybody lining it up. Looking perfect. Everybody hold what you got.
Bar none, this is the fastest motorsport in the world.
Race plane to race aircraft. Gentlemen, you're looking good. Gentlemen, you have a race.
And it looks like it might be Wee Willie. That would be Robbie Patterson, followed by Sweet and
That was fun.